Hello and welcome to True Audio Files, where I'm going to talk about the Beatles. You've probably seen a bunch of these already. If you're a big Beatles fan, you're just kind of trying to get everybody's take. But yes, I am going to be doing a sound quality shootout on Revolver. I'm going to do kind of my take on the new stereo remix versus the old. And I'll do a comparison of three previous versions of it of the original mix, and then I'm also going to compare a couple of monos. So first thing I'll say, let's talk about remix versus the original stereo mix. I found this one kind of interesting, and I can't say that I studied them very hard. I kind of just did a back and forth. How I did it is I basically listened to, initially, I listened to every single track, the original versus the remix. So I went from beginning to the end and just did, Taxman regular original mix, Taxman 2022 remix, then Eleanor Rigby original mix, 2022 remix. So you get the idea. It's basically I went track by track comparing the original mix versus the remix. And I then and that those were actually done digitally. I'm going to be fully transparent. But then I also did compare the vinyl as well, just to get a sense for, whatever differences I might find. So, and then, so when it comes to the remix, I found it kind of odd because, without going too deep into it and without going into, every single technical nuance difference, I would say that maybe half of the songs, maybe a little more than half of the songs, were very similar to the original mix. There weren't a ton of differences, besides maybe a little bit better clarity and some subtle nuances, like I'd mentioned. And the clarity comes just from taking the original 4-track master tapes, digitizing them, so when you do the final mix, you don't have that extra generational loss of analog tape. So, having said that, there were some standouts, and I've taken my notes, and the ones that stood out to me as being the most notable and most noticeable change from the remix to the original mix would be Taxman, Eleanor Rigby, Yellow Submarine, Good Day Sunshine, and Dr. Robert. Most of the time it was the differences that I kind of noticed were, maybe the vocals were centered more, or sometimes maybe there was better separation of the instruments where maybe there was stuff way off to the left and right, but also some stuff maybe not so far off left and right, and then stuff in the center. So and as a general rule, I did for the most part appreciate the differences on the ones that were most notably different and noticeably different. I can't say I'm a huge fan of some of the things that were done. The one thing that you do notice right off the bat with, if, for example, Eleanor Rigby just sticks out in my head just because I just was doing an A/B comparison to the stereo versions of the vinyl. And, the voice, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Paul's voice is in the left speaker, and then during certain parts, like the choruses and things like that, they double his voice by kind of adding a little bit of a delay and sending that to the right channel. And that's more prominent on the old stereo mix, where the new mix, it's definitely still there, but it's maybe not quite as obvious because his voice is centered. But overall, I prefer having like the drums and the rhythm section in general and the vocals kind of more centered than way off to the left or way off to the right. And that's what they tended to do in 4 or 5 of these remixed songs, where the other 8, 9, I guess it'd be 9, they kind of sort of kept it similar, and not too much of a drastic change. So, I think overall I do prefer the new mix when it comes to the ones that are the most obvious changes. And again, overall I'd say the clarity is probably a little bit better, again, just because you've got one less tape generation when you have this final mix, so you get a little bit better clarity that I've noticed right off the bat. So it's all personal preferences, obviously, but that's kind of my take on it. So there's that. And basically, when I went through the stereo ones, I then went to the vinyl, and I had 4 variations that I got that I was able to listen to. I probably should have brought some of the boxes over, but I think you'll get my take. First one I listened, well, one of the ones I listened to was, this is the one from the BC13 Blue box set, the UK Blue box set that came out, I think like late 70s, maybe early 80s. So there was that one. This is the new remix one. Then I also listened to the one from the Mofi box set. And then I actually also do have what I believe, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe is it's a 70s, I believe, German pressing. It's on Apple Records, as you can see, and it's actually got the Apple logo on the label. But I'm not exactly sure the date of this one, but I'm pretty sure it's an 70s version of it. So I listened to those 4. And I would say, it's hard to really say a comparison between, obviously, the remix versus the other ones. But I'll say in general what I said before when I did a comparison between the digital versions. It's pretty much very similar. You get a little bit better clarity, like on the vocals and some of the other things, because there's that one less layer. So you've got that. I also did feel that it was just in general some of the mixes I preferred. So, but that's going to be more about the mix and less about maybe the masterings of them. So the only way I can really do the comparisons of the masterings is between the other 3 that I have. So I would say, my favorite, as has been the case before, is probably the Mobile Fidelity. It has a better, just a better sense of space in it, number one. Would be that drawback that some people don't like, is that it probably has a little bit more treble than some people like, maybe a little bit more bass than some people like. But I think I really like it because it's deeper bass, higher highs than you typically think of when you think of the bass and treble. It's a deeper bass, and the higher highs are what are more prominent. And I believe that the other ones are probably more geared towards being able to be played still on the cheaper record players and turntables of the day. I would say the German one may actually, the German and the BC13 one are very, very close. The German one actually had about as much treble as the Mofi one did, and so I was kind of surprised about that. Where the BC13 Blue Box one is probably a little bit more mid-range focused, which is not a surprise because that's usually the case with these types of things when comparing, especially to the Mobile Fidelity ones. So I guess you have to kind of pick your poison up. But like I said, I would say that the German 70s pressing and the BC13 are very close in terms of overall sound stage and just presence in general. The German one probably has a little bit more high end in it. The Mobile Fidelity one has a little bit more deeper bass, a little bit higher highs, and in my opinion, a better sense of space around everything. And maybe that's because of the higher highs and the lower lows. I don't know, but I think it has a little bit more to do maybe with the equipment that was used to cut them as well. But my preference still is probably towards the Mofi, but I can certainly see why people would feel the other way. And so my take, stereo, I personally, if you're talking about the old one anyways, you go with the Mobile Fidelity. The new stereo remix is very, very good in terms of the sound quality on the vinyl. So, hard to really say if it's better than the Mofi because it's different. So, hard to really compare. So, when it comes to the mono, I compared the 2 most latest ones. This is the one from the new box set. And then I have the one here from the, 2012, I think, mono box set. And they're very close. The new one's definitely got is hotter in terms of its cut louder. I probably, in some ways I like it better, but I don't know. I think the clarity, I still might give a slight edge to the earlier mono one. I guess it's all what you like. I mean, I definitely like the hotter, more, and it kind of gives you the impression of more dynamics, although I don't really think that's the case. But both are great, and you can't go wrong. And if you can't get yourself that 2012 mono version, this new one still sounds amazing, and they're very, very close beyond that. I felt that, if I had to nitpick, and maybe the reason why I kind of leaned more towards the 2012 is I thought that there was a little bit of harshness in the voice, just a smidge, in comparison to the 2012. Now, if you like bass, I think that the new one had maybe a smidge more bass, kind of mid bass to it than the 2012. But beyond that, they were really, really close. All of them were surprisingly pressed well, and I will kind of add something to that, because I have made mention quite a few times how I'm not a huge fan of GZ vinyl, and that they're kind of a crapshoot. And usually, this is the first time I'm aware of that the Beatles actually used GZ vinyl to press all the records. Usually they've gone to optimal, and I've been very, very happy with the optimal pressings of the Beatles stuff. But this time they went with GZ vinyl. You can tell because of the sticker. It says made in the Czech Republic. Whenever you see that, it's GZ vinyl. So, but I was pretty impressed. I mean, there was a little bit of noise on them, but it wasn't crazy. So I was relatively pleased so far. I haven't gone through the extras on vinyl yet. I've listened to them digitally, but I haven't gone through them all on the records yet, so maybe I'll have some issues on those ones. But on the mono and the stereo, they were pretty quiet. There was a little bit of noise here and there, but it was not anywhere near as bad as I've had from GZ vinyl in the past. So, all right, so that's my take. To summarize, I do probably give a slight edge to the new stereo remix in general, although a lot of the tracks are going to sound very similar to the original mix, just maybe with a little bit better clarity to them because there's one less tape generation on them. And when it comes to the original mix, I probably have a slight edge towards the mobile fidelity, but both the BC13 and the German pressings both sound very, very good. It's all going to be a matter of taste from an EQ standpoint. Like I said, the German one probably has a little bit more treble than the British BC13 Blue Box unit, or record, I should say. So it's all about your taste. I mean, the clarity and everything else is really good on both of those, German and then the UK one. The mobile fidelity one, like I said, I really just felt it gave me a better sense of space on the mastering. So that is everything I have. I'm not going to go too deep into the demos and the B-side, all those extras that they're on there, because that's all personal preference. They sound really, really good, and if you're basically just, I know there's a lot of people that probably just buy it for that. I think you'll probably be very happy with the mono record that comes with it if you want to get it because of that also. And if you want to give the stereo remix a chance, I think that in many cases I think you might like it, because I don't know, I just have a preference to like I was mentioning before, the main vocals and maybe the the melody, the stuff, the drums and the bass and things like that, when they're a little bit more centered, and they tended to do that on some of the remixes here. So that's my take. I think you'd be very happy with the box set. Even if it's just for the mono reissue and the outtakes as well and demos. Mainly because, as most of you probably already know, the mono record that comes with it was cut from the original analog master tapes. There was no digital in it at all. Where the stereo remix is done digitally, and it's obviously has to be for that reason. But then it was half speed mastered when they cut it to vinyl, and I think it sounds great. So that is my take. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think. What are your thoughts on the remix, the mono? Do you have the 2012 mono and this one, and what do you think in terms of those two and how they compare? What's your favorite version of the original stereo remix? I'd love to hear what you have to say. So, if you liked what you saw here, hit that like button. If you want to see more of my videos, please hit that subscribe button. And if you want to know when my new videos come out, hit that alert bell. And I am also available on social media. Haven't been on there that much lately, so I have to apologize. but I have my own True Audiophiles Facebook page. I am on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram as well. So that's everything I've got for this week. I hope you guys have a great one.